Do you believe in accountable love?
Snobs, where love is a group journey. My name is Jerry.
My name's Aziz.
And season 3, we're talking about who is the adult in the room.
Yeah, who's
right?
the
Being
adult?
the adult in the room. Who is the adult in the
room?
room? And one of the topics we're going to talk about today is misplaced guilt.
Home of the Love Snobs. Love Snobs. Love Snobs. The Love Snobs have surfaced. You know, the people that actually use honesty to communicate. The genuine friends that refuse to let you feel sorry for yourself. Yes, those people.
You know, the friends that collect your tears every time life makes your eyes rain. The love snobs, the people that don't allow you to settle. Support your dreams, but don't support you sleeping with just anybody.
You know, the friends that are so judgmental they ask you to stay away from negative people and encourage you to surround yourself with positive people.
Yes, that friend. The friends that love you even when you refuse to love yourself.
You know, the love snobs.
I thought it was really important for us to talk about misplaced guilt because we often, as mature adults that are continuously trying to progress in life, we are always reevaluating and thinking about certain things. And sometimes we harp on the wrong things. We hold on to things that we really shouldn't be holding on to. But basically, misplaced guilt is being guilty for something that you have no control over.
I mean, misplaced guilt has become the new religion, right?
It has, but
it's like you always are guilted into, speaking correctly. You're guilted into not saying certain things. You're guilted into keeping your thoughts to yourself. You're guilted into making sure you're kind to people who are mean to you. You're making sure, like a lot of it is guilty.
I think, but you know what? I think what you're describing is also like emotionally, emotionally
But
blackmail.
that's what guilt is. Guilt is emotional blackmail.
Well, based on Google.
That's the actual weapon. No, but that's the actual weapon.
Well, it is the weapon. So
it's
yeah,
the weapon
but
used
it
to
goes
emotionally manipulate and blackmail a person to get them to do what you want them to do.
Yeah.
So instead of having, we're humans because we have reason and evidence.
Yes.
Right? So instead of explaining something and coming to a common ground, because that's what it's all about. When a couple of people or a group of people or two people are trying to come together, you actually have to have discussions to try to find common ground, because if you're walking in separate directions, you're not a team.
Yes.
So you got to find a way, even though there's 70 ways to do things, you got to find that one way where y'all both feel comfortable in doing it.
Yes.
Or the multiple people feel comfortable doing it, but a lot of people feel like they can't say certain things because, let's go with death, like talking about death. Like a lot of people feel like they can't really voice their opinions because they're fearful if something happens or that person dies, then and they left on bad terms, then.
Well, yes, that's definitely misguided. That's misguided guilt.
That's
because you really shouldn't hold on to a relationship because someone may die. Because the reality is, we're all gonna die.
Definitely.
Like, we're not here forever. We have an expiration date. When that time comes, we are unsure. Which is why you should fight for every relationship. You should fight for everything with all that you have. Right? Because it's about living. Like, we should all be worried about who we want to live with, not think about what happens if somebody dies. You know what I mean? It's like the glass half full, half empty theory. You know what I mean? If you're always thinking about your glass half empty, then of course you're going to think about.
If you're thinking about death all the time, how you
going to be progressive? Yeah, you know what I mean?
How you living. Part 2 is this is personal relationships we're talking about. We're not just talking about humanity, like being tolerant of other people, being tolerant of differences. Like, the reason why you are friends or y'all cool is because y'all found likenesses.
Yes.
So it's really, your friendship is based on the fact that y'all are similar. Now, obviously, you can do two different things progress in a similar way, but it has to be leaning towards the same direction.
Absolutely.
That's why commitment happens. So now to be focused on death, even though somebody's walking in the opposite direction than you, that's not living.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up as an example, because a relationship may not necessarily be toxic.
Definitely.
In order for you to be walking in the opposite direction. You know what I mean? Like, we often make decisions because we are put in a position because we are in a relationship where it's toxic, or toxic and healthy is
we
basically
always
the same
talk about
thing.
it being toxic.
But we never talk about just two people where it's not toxic, right? Because they're two mature adults who had a conversation and realized that they don't have anything in common, or they're not moving in the same direction. So they decide, you know what, we're just gonna say, let's just call it quits right now. Like, I'm not enhancing your life, you're not enhancing my life, no hard feelings. We really won't be our best with each other because that's where the enhancement comes from.
Definitely.
So we're just gonna call it quits. And that's okay too. And I think that people really have a hard time making those decisions. Like, they have to deal with, let me finish my thought. They have to deal with conflict in order to make those decisions. But then on the flip side,
Oh, to let
people
me finish
run.
my thought is just
That's
to
for
you.
me. That's for me. Sorry.
I always used to think it was
No,
towards
that's
me.
for
All
me,
this
that's for
time,
me,
you
yeah,
done hit
yeah.
me with that on a few shows.
Yeah,
And I'm
sorry,
like, wait
sorry.
up, I'm not letting you finish your thought, but you're actually talking to yourself
Yeah, no,
right now.
I fight with myself.
Yeah,
by
go
the way,
ahead.
sorry. But I was reminding myself. I guess I could use my inside voice going forward.
No, you can keep doing that. I
But-
mean, you might look a little crazy,
Yeah,
but
I
you
agree.
can
Yeah,
do
no.
it.
Yeah, we're talking about healthy relationships, and I'm like talking to myself.
I think that's healthy, though, but go ahead.
But
You're a visual learner,
I am a
so
visual
you
learner.
have to see the words out loud.
Okay, I'm just, my mind is going somewhere else. So
Okay, go ahead.
the point is that, most people don't want it, but the flip side of that, a lot of people don't want to deal with conflict.
Definitely.
So they run from conflict, but then they only can make decisions when there's conflict, although they run from conflict.
But wouldn't you say we're living in an existence or a time where conflict, like you lived in the 70s.
What? I did
Conflict
not.
is, not you,
Oh,
not you.
I'm like,
I
what?
said if we lived in the 70s,
I'm like, shit, I'm
conflict
only
was everything.
1978, like I was two.
Conflict was progress. Conflict was what was changing lives and changing different things and, allowing black people to progress, things of that nature. But now we're in a place where conflict is frowned upon. And I think
Yeah.
that's what's hurting our relationships because people don't even realize having debates and we're two separate people coming together to find common ground. So having conflict is a part of the relationship. That's a part of what you're signing on for.
And but it's the healthy conflict though. It's
Definitely.
not, the conflict isn't you're lying to me, you're not being forthcoming, or you feel some type of way about me and it comes out in other ways. Like, that's not the type of conflict we're talking about. We're
Definitely.
talking about communicating. Like, we may not be on the same side of things all of the time. I may not be feeling you today.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay, and I
Well,
should be
it's
able
not
to.
okay, but I guess
Really?
we could have a discussion about it.
No, what I'm saying is, yeah.
Like,
okay,
you got to
it depends
explain
on
to me why you're
yes.
not feeling
It
me today.
depends
You
on
can't
why.
just wake up today and say, I'm not feeling you today.
Agreed, but you got me sounding
That's
crazy.
unhealthy.
But yes.
Well, that's unhealthy conflict.
But you're right. But what
You're
I'm
an
saying,
educator. You can't just leave it at.
You're right. So
People
let
be
me go
waking
back.
up and like, listen, I don't even want to.
I don't want to mess with you.
And then they're just walking away. Like, what we're talking about is explaining everything. So that's where that's where the guilt comes in.
Yes.
You're
not
living
explaining,
personally.
Yeah.
You're like waking up, feeling a certain way. You had a bad dream. I don't know what happened. You wake up on the wrong side of the bed and everybody else gets punished for it. And we're taught that a person is entitled to that.
Yes, we are.
How you sign on for a relationship, but you're entitled to keep doing personal things. Now you are entitled to your space, but you have to communicate that.
Yeah.
You can't have me over there wondering why you're feeling the way you're feeling. Like, communicate. Listen, I need my space to get my thoughts together. X, Y, and Z. I had a bad dream. Give me some time. And then I can now say, yeah, I'll give you some time.
Or
understand.
no, I don't want to give you time
But-
because we signed up for something. And that,
Whatever,
but that's
whatever it
something
is,
that you
whatever
also
it
taught
is.
me too. Like, when I'm not saying that you can't have your space, right?
Definitely.
Or some people need time to regroup so that they can be recharged and they can, attack or not attack, but deal with situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what people fail to realize is when you are taking that break, when you do need that time, depending on how long that time is, you are taking away from that relationship.
Definitely.
So that person may not be in that same exact spot when you decide to come back.
Well, you might not necessarily be taking a relationship based on the time frame. So based on, like, you're taking a few hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're expected to come back with and that's not guilt. That's just accountability.
Yes.
You're expected to come back and explain what was the process, what you was going through, because a person needs to be abreast on what's going on with you at all times. I mean, without the communication part of it, we can't constantly read body language. We need something that is etched in stone, because I can say you having a bad day because of your body language. Like right now, you got a closed body, you got a
this is
closed posture. I
comfortable.
know. I know
And I,
that
like, rock
about you. You
myself.
see what I'm saying? I know that about you. But if I
Yeah.
don't know that, I'm reading body language, I
Yeah.
can get the wrong interpretation. That's why we have communication. So we should use our communication to actually forge or come together. It shouldn't be to tear us apart. So that's what you were saying about arguing and going back and forth. And a lot of people are guilted into not voicing their opinions. Like, we
Yeah.
promote going in a relationship being exactly who you are and seeing if the relationship could coexist with you being who you are, they being who they are, and see if y'all really belong together.
Instead, everyone is so calculated that
Definitely.
they take a step back and
They're worrying about being hurt.
Yeah, engage the other person and see how they could fit into the other person and try to make that perfect puzzle piece and not really being who they are. And then that lasts for so long because it could last forever, but that other person is probably not happy, and you know it's something that most people do. Like they don't, because let's be honest, like when we talk about personal relationships, we're measured by how many friends we have, if we're married or single. Like those are the things that we're measured on.
Definitely.
So everyone, you know,
we're not measured on health. We're measured on what's the norm.
Yeah, exactly. So if I say I have 2 friends, they're like, what? Then what's wrong with you? You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Or if I say, you know, I'm still single, and it's like, then you must be crazy because you're still single.
Definitely.
And although, you know, I'm not saying that, I hate to say I'm not perfect because we're all
That's
not
the
perfect.
cliche.
Yeah, that's the cliche.
That's another thing I was going to bring up regarding guilt.
But the reality is that when you know what you want and you're willing to hold out for what you want, then the dating pool is smaller.
Definitely.
So that's the reality of it. You know what I mean? So, but we're measured on those things. Like if you don't have certain things, it's like you must be unhealthy. But the reality is you're probably the healthiest because you took the time to pick your friends. All your connections are not mindless. You're not trying to settle or.
But when you're ready for commitment, I don't care who you are, the dating pool is small. When you're ready for commitment, I don't care who you are, your friend circle is small.
When you're truly ready for commitment.
Because people aren't ready for commitment. They have associates that they call friends.
Yes.
They have people that they grew up with that they continuously call friends, but they have nothing in common with anymore.
Yes.
They have people that they see on the street, slap 5, tell them they love them, and keep it moving. And they use the word love to express that, which takes away from what love really truly means. And then they actually call that person their friend, which devalues what friendship is. Because if you now say, oh, that's my friend, and he's somebody that I've never seen you with, and then you call me friend, how you think I feel? Because how is he your friend and I'm your friend? And I'm actually living day to day with you. So we got to start really figuring out. But people feel so guilty. They feel like they can't hurt somebody else's feelings. And they really believe it's them that have the power to hurt somebody else's feelings, but really it's the insecurity of the person. Because anybody that loves the truth, they want to hear what you have to say. Mm-hmm. And then you find, like we always say, and I'm not even going to say truth, I'm going to say honesty. Because truth is when 2 people come together and find what's actually so. Mm-hmm. Honesty is where I actually feel as an independent.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you know my perspective of everything, what went on. And then they're going to let me know what their perspective. And we find that maybe I'm right, maybe they're right, maybe right is somewhere in the middle. That's what the truth is, right? So, but we're guilted into it. So we always find somebody that is not as strong as we are.
Yes.
And we always tiptoeing around them. So now when you look at it, who runs the whole relationship?
The person that you got to tiptoe around.
So you get with somebody who had a rough past. You had a great past, great upbringing, parents worked, took care of you, were present, were there for every event. And let's be honest, those people are guilted by the person who grew up with no parents. Like you can't get with that person because then you'll be catering to their insecurities for the rest of your life, right? So when you try to find somebody that's actually like-minded, that actually grew up in that same environment, then now you're discriminating or now you're judging. So there's so many words out there that's singular, that's independent, that you're called judgmental, or you're called singular things to control you, to guilt you into these things. But why would I want to be with somebody who I'm going to have to carry through life?
As you shouldn't.
So, of course, you're going to go and you're going to look for somebody that is like-minded, somebody who has a similar path. And I'm not saying that the person that actually grew up in foster care has all this baggage that they bring in this relationship. Maybe they actually dealt with everything. And maybe you're the one with the baggage because you can't get out of mommy's house. You're not independent. It could be all kinds of things. I'm just using it as the scenario. I'm saying when we're talking about personal relationships, like I always say, it's time to be selfish, to be selfless to other people, right? So you're being selfish because you're actually picking who you want out of billions of people. But you're going to be selfless because once you pick them, you know that you're dealing with something greater than yourself. So you know, damn, I want to go rob that convenience store, but I got 2 kids at home. You can't do it. But single, you probably could have did it, and I'm getting away and I'm going to have the money, but you can't bring that baggage back into your relationships, which is another form of guilt, because a lot of people say, do you? Just like going back to what you were saying. A person wakes up and like, you know what, I always wanted to help the kids, when you were saying that there can be good reasons to leave, right? I wanted to help the kids in Africa and I really want to just leave. But you got a job, let's say you're my wife, you got a job, you got all these things going for you. But I woke up one day, which is a great thing, to want to help, give back. And I'm like, I want to just do 5 years overseas helping.
Oh, like the Eat, Pray, Love chick.
Yeah. And that's like, do you. It's your personal. It's your personal quest. And it's just like, that's being promoted a lot nowadays. And we're guilted into saying that's okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay? You signed on for a life with me.
Yeah. It's not, I mean, it really isn't okay, because I think the misguided guilt on the other person's end is, if I put up a fight, right, and I tell my significant other that, no, you're wrong. Like, you cannot go to Africa to save children because we have a life here.
You hold them accountable.
Yeah, we decided that we were going to stay here. Then everyone that's in his ear is going to say, damn, she's not supportive, she's not doing whatever.
Definitely.
So you feel like you don't want to be the bad guy. So you're like, you know what, go, honey. Go, we'll have a long distance relationship. And when you come back, we'll do, but it's unfair.
And the marriages to death do us part, or unhealthy, you know, it's all of these things that go with it, right?
Yeah.
But who has to honor that standard? Because the person, me, I woke up and said I wanted to go to Africa. So I don't even have to honor it. I didn't even factor you in. But you have to factor me in, because the world is guilting you into, because it's something positive. I'm doing something above us. I'm helping people. I'm doing something greater than us. But I didn't consult with you. I just decided to do. It's not that it's wrong that what I want to do is not wrong. But the fact that I didn't have a discussion with you and actually go over it with you and us actually come to that agreement together is what the problem is.
Yeah.
I decided independently, and now it's in my soul to do so. What's going to go on now?
Yeah.
It's in my soul. Now you want a divorce, and it's wrong to divorce me. It's wrong not to let me go. It's just wrong, but I committed the first crime.
But that's why it's really important. Like, we always stress on our other podcasts, and even any discussion that we ever have about equal relationships.
Definitely.
How it's really important that you have equal relationships, and meaning that you guys want the same things. Like, I want to live in New York City.
Definitely.
I do not want to relocate. So
Definitely.
if I meet a man who wants to go down south when we hit 60, you're not the guy for me.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Or I don't want any more kids. So if I meet a man who wants more kids, then he's not the man. You know what I mean? Like,
or let's even go with this. Your mind is made up as a single person. Let's say that. You meet a man, you sit across the table from him, y'all have so much in common, y'all have a lot of things going, and he's like, listen, I want to leave at 60, but we got 20 years here. Can we work towards that? So once we retire, can we leave? And you're like,
maybe.
This is a great man, pros and cons. Like, this is a relationship. So we're smarter than that. We know that when you bring another person in, there's certain things you gotta let go of, because they move their stuff in. It's just like, you can't move in a house with another person and think they're not bringing some of their stuff.
yeah.
So it's the same way you should always attach yourself to a relationship, any relationship, friendship, romantic partner. You know you're moving some of your stuff to the side to move their stuff in, but then there's certain deal breakers. So if that's truly a deal breaker, then that's not the person for you. But knowing you, I don't know. I know that you're a New Yorker. I know I'm a New Yorker, but knowing
you're saying that because you're trying to move to Florida. I see where this is going.
I'm not trying to move
to
to
Florida,
Florida, man. You're bugging. I'm a New Yorker. I don't want to be hot for all year round. I'm a New Yorker. I want change of weather. But what I'm saying is, in that understanding is, if now you are running around saying, oh, well, I'm not leaving New York ever, but you meet a nice guy, you meet an incredible guy, and that's the give and take. I believe
You think I'm moving?
I believe at 60, you're considerate. You'll consider, I mean, I'm not talking about you per se, because like you said, we're both accountable. So our lives is tied together. We're partners in business, we're close friends. There's a lot that go, you have a daughter that I helped raise, which is my goddaughter, which is like my daughter. So we have things that you'll be taking from me.
I'm not raising little Aziz.
Oh yeah, my bad. And you help raising my son, even though you give me some guilt about that. So we could touch on that. But we have things so I already tell people when I run into them, like, I have other obligations. I have people that I'm dedicated to.
Yeah.
So you would have to come in and fit that understanding, because I'm not dead in my friend. I wouldn't ask you to dead your obligations neither, because I want somebody who's accountable, want somebody who's dedicated to their past as well as their future.
Yeah.
So I understand what I want on a consistent level. You get what I'm saying? So when it comes to guilt, though, that person now signs on, where you're going with is that person signs on the relationship with you, still thinking he can talk you in, or still thinking she could talk you in to moving at a certain time.
Yeah.
That's where it gets a little crazy, and then the guilt starts coming in. Because once they drained you, They gave you all the heartache. You're left with a broken heart, and they're moving on to the next person who wants to leave.
The thing is like you said, when it comes to like, it's the push and pull of positive versus positive. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the hard part. So
Definitely.
it's like, well, yeah, of course, if we move down south, then we can get a mansion for the amount of mortgage that we pay in New York City, right? We get, you know, we have the land and we have this and we have that and blah blah blah. So yeah, sounds good. But if you, like you said, if that's not something you signed up for, then
like we went for Jasmine's birthday to the Poconos for snow tubing and skiing weekend, right?
Yeah.
We all hung out. We rented a house. We drove in the snow to the house, right? We all looked at each other. We're missing some seasoning. We all looked at each other. We're not driving 20 minutes to the Walmart.
Yeah, no, we was like,
we
we
could
have
get
to
up.
make do.
So we're like, we made do for the weekend, but we know that that's for the birds.
Yeah.
Like we used to just walking down to the supermarket and going to pick up what we need and coming back. So if we forget something, we can go right back, put on our sneakers, and we barely want to do that. So like, and then walk over. Now we got to get in the car, drive in all conditions, drive to the local store to come all the way. Like, it's just too much. And if you was raised in New York, it's a lot.
Yeah, but you and I both know that we've talked about investing in property, right? So it's one of those things that we may have to find some place in the middle. Like we may not live in Mount Pocono.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Where they don't put salt down when it snows. But we may, you know, we may move to something that's a little bit more, that still has a little bit of the city feel, but really not the city.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Where we can get property and, you know, still get the space.
But that's what somebody now will try to coach you into. So when we talk about misplaced guilt, we're talking about, okay, now I'm with you. I already gave you this whole story, right? I'm not moving. It's for the birds. I like the convenience of the city, all this other stuff. Then you try to hit me with, as we maturing, our money is intertwining, we realizing to live in New York is getting pricey, right? So now you try to hit me with the, you know, it makes more sense to leave. We get more bang for our buck. I'm saying. You want me to throw the voice on?
But you kind of did my voice.
Okay, I didn't. But I'm saying that now you're telling me it's pricey, which makes all of that is logical. It makes logical sense. But that's not the contract. You see what I'm saying? Like, everybody want to avoid the contract with logic. But I'm like, no, but we talked about convenience. And we're not getting no younger, so we're getting older. So now we got to keep this house up. Now we got to maintain this house. Now we got to cut wood. We got to do. So you're going to do all that in your 60s? Because as you're talking me down from me moving from the convenience, you don't drive? You don't cut wood?
Wait a minute, you're like going in and out of like real life and fake life. So the reality, I need you to follow since this is being documented.
Oh, so you want everybody to know that
Yes.
that's not truly who you are.
No, I'm not saying
But that is truly
we
who you are.
agreed that we would get property wherever it made sense, whether I was driving or not.
No. I'm not talking about real life. I'm talking about
Yeah, I know, you're like
in
going
the scenario.
in, out, and
but I'm talking about I'm going into the scenario.
But
what
you
I'm saying
put on my voice though, so I kind of knew. I thought you was.
I used you in the scenario, and I'm saying for the visual. I don't understand why we gotta go through this, man. I'm talking about for the visual, excuse me, that it's you, but it's not you. But I'm using real life.
Okay,
So you
alright.
can't drive. Do
But
you have a license?
So that's my
you can't
point.
drive.
You just
but
threw shit
you're
out.
not the are you with me? Because we're talking about a person that's dating.
No,
so I said, let's say we're dating.
Oh, you said that?
Yes, I'm saying let's say we're in a relationship, and now we signed on, and I told you that I love the convenience, and I gave you this story.
Oh,
That's
got
what
it,
I just
right.
finished saying. So
And
keep up,
and
keep up.
your girlfriend.
Now
can't
y'all
drive.
get now. Wait. Now you're getting some insight on how my life is looking over there. You're getting some insight, but at the end of the day, the convenience now changes because it is the convenience is comfort, it is a feeling, and it's not necessarily a logical thing. You come with the logic, more bang for our buck, all these things, all these scenarios, that's cool, right? So it does trump the feeling of things, right? Because I want to feel comfortable. So you feel like, okay, we gotta have a discussion. And I'm like, but I'm keeping the contract, I'm not wanting to move. So now the guilt comes in. You know what I mean? I can't believe you're irrational. You're
Well,
not
more
trying
like
to budge. You're not
the
trying.
resentment?
Yeah. Then you resenting me, and then it's all this other stuff. So now you're doing little things to get me to either break up with you or you on your way out. But the same thing you signed on for, you're leaving me for. So that's where the guilt comes in. So now I'm gonna be like, damn, if I don't move, I'm gonna lose the woman of my dreams, right?
Who can't drive.
Who can't drive. So now I'm like, okay, now I'm leaving. I'm losing the woman of my dreams, or I can deal with my convictions. Which one is it? Because if now, what's next? We move to the suburbs, and now you want to do something else.
I want you to shovel snow, and it's a problem.
Like you want to keep, so I'm like, we moved there, you're going to be the one cutting the wood, you're going to be the one shoveling the snow, because I'm not. And you're like, okay, so we moved there. And then what happens? You renege on that. Why? Because I allowed one conviction to drop that we signed on for, so now it becomes a business. Because now you're going to take everything that's worth it. That's where the guilt comes into play. Mm-hmm. That's a big point of where that misplaced guilt comes in. But that's just one scenario.
Good story.
Thank you. I'm not the storyteller you usually are, but
I know,
that's one good.
I would like to start with my story.
Okay, go ahead.
No, but I was thinking that is a good example of two people coming together. But I was also thinking another example of misguided guilt is guilt that you put on yourself. Like one thing that I know that I experienced was.
Now we talking about you? Like you,
yeah,
or the imaginary you? Which one are we talking about? Okay, go ahead.
When we were thinking about doing the show, actually what popped into my head was I had a kid at 27, right? Mm-hmm. With a guy that I kind of knew wasn't going to be my forever.
Definitely.
Right? But I went full throttle anyway because we were friends prior to us getting together, and
y'all were friends when you were young.
When we were younger, yes.
Like, tell us, y'all wasn't friends when you got together.
No, you're right. Sorry,
but you romanticized the friendship when you was younger and thought it was the same human being.
You want to tell a story?
6 years later. No, I just want to make it clear because now we're talking about you.
All right.
If you're gonna let the people in, let the men.
All right, let me start back.
Let the men.
We were friends when I was younger, teenagers, right? High school, tail end of high school. We reconnected 10 years later actually.
Definitely.
And we got into a relationship rather quickly. Mm-hmm. So at that point, we realized we were getting to know each other. We fast-tracked everything. I got pregnant. I knew very early on that he wasn't going to be my forever, but I still continued on anyway because I felt like, again, because we measure our success based on who we are connected with, what relationships fail and what relationships don't fail, right?
Definitely.
So I was holding on because I didn't want to be a single parent, right? And I also was holding on because I didn't want us breaking up be an excuse for him not to be a stand-up dad. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like I thought that if I broke up with him, then we would have to deal with this other area that I didn't quite want to deal with, and he may or may not step up to the plate, right?
Definitely.
So, long story short, he was in and out, right? And for a long time, I was thinking that it was my fault that my child didn't have a consistent person in her life. And to a certain degree it was, right? Because I'm taking responsibility for my actions. One, I knew very early on that he wasn't going to be my forever, right? And although I wanted to take responsibility, I did.
So you feel like at that point, do you think reflecting back, or you felt at that particular point you knew for sure he wasn't going to be your forever?
I knew very early on he wasn't going to be my forever.
Oh, sure. I never knew that.
I was already knocked up at this point, though.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I got knocked up like 2 weeks later. Like, I'm not even able to 2 weeks. I'm like, what? You looking at me like, what?
Yeah, I'm starting to side-eye you like, yo, there's a lot I don't know about you now.
The point, like, what I'm saying is, like, we moved really fast. So I was pregnant, like, within 6 months, 4 months, I was pregnant.
You learned the hard lesson.
So I knew our very first disagreement, I knew then that he wasn't going to be my forever. And although he said his sorries, we had the discussion, moved on, I realized I was pregnant, didn't even know I was pregnant at that time. And then once I found out I was pregnant, I was like, well, we got to make this work.
Definitely.
And so
That's the misplaced guilt. That's it right there that a lot of people go through.
Yeah, so I decided that, you know what, I'm just going to continue out this relationship because we're having a baby, and this should, if we want it bad enough, we should come together to make it work. But we were already on.
If it's toxic before the baby, what makes you think adding another person is going to make it?
And it wasn't actually toxic at that moment because we were both not being ourselves totally. So, we were still playing nice in the sandbox. So, and it was, you're right, I'm wrong, and, taking responsibility for things. So to propel the relationship, so we kept moving forward. But you know when somebody's not your forever.
Definitely.
So I got
But when
pregnant.
you saying that you tried to, initially you said that you was trying, like, before you realized you was pregnant, y'all was ready to part ways.
Well, we had one big
So
argument.
that's what I'm saying.
Well,
Y'all was
not an
ready to
argument, we
part
had a
ways, and then you
disagreement.
like, let's make this work. So what I'm saying is the reason why you decided to make it work was because the actual idea of you having a baby. Because without that, well, that's what you portrayed. I'm saying.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that we got into the first argument, and he said, so we were still, in my mind, on this trial basis thing, right?
Okay.
And so we decided that we were still going to move forward, and then shortly after that, I found out I was pregnant.
Definitely.
So the trial basis kind of was like, you're no longer on probation anymore. You're my man. You're moving in. Like, you know what I mean? And so we just went full steam ahead. So yes, there's the me guilting myself to believe that if I broke up with this man, then I was a failure, right?
Definitely.
And then the other part of it was when we actually dating, had the baby, and realized, and then things just blew up. And still sticking around thinking that if I remove myself from the situation, what type of father he's going to be. But I can't be responsible for that. Although I took responsibility for being with him to begin with. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like, I think that if I would have pumped my brakes and not went full steam ahead because we met each other when we were 18, 19 years old, and I thought, hey, we already know each other. Come on, let's go. You know what I mean? Like that.
If I took the time to get to know him,
then we wouldn't. Then I wouldn't have been pregnant as fast. I wouldn't have. Like we probably wouldn't be here. And the misguided guilt is like, but then I wouldn't have my child. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like, or so it's all these things that you think about. But the one thing that I would say is that I wanted to take responsibility for my actions,
Definitely.
right? Which is why I say, like, if I vetted him or took my time, then we probably wouldn't be here.
I think accountability
But-
offsets a lot of the guilt. Like accountability.
But for a while,
like,
I felt guilty about, like, damn, here's my child who doesn't have a great relationship with her dad because I chose a shitty guy to be her father.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, that was something that I was dealing with for a really long time.
And I think that you have to own that because you did make that decision. But at the end of the day, you own it, you realized it, and you now stepped up and made sure you didn't make him pay because you made a choice.
Absolutely.
So at the same time, you wasn't the woman that's like forcing him to do X, Y, and Z.
No.
You're like, okay, you know, being a dad is it's not just a choice. It shouldn't be a choice, but at the same time, it is a choice. You can choose to walk out.
But
or you can
we
choose
chose
to stay.
together to have her.
Definitely, you can
So-
choose to walk out. You can choose to stay. That's always a choice. That's always free will. But if you have a set of principles, it's not a choice. But it should be a pleasure, and that's where a lot of people are missing. That's what I mean by the guilt. Like, who should be guilted into raising a child? It should be your pleasure to raise a child. Like, you step up because you want to instill your beliefs, you want to instill your values, you want to be present to raising that child, regardless whether you like the woman or not.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say every woman is easy.
No,
I'm not saying every man is easy. What I'm saying is when you decide to have a child, you have to understand that it shouldn't be guilt that's the motivator.
But if
With any relationship.
if being a good parent is a principle, then it wouldn't even matter.
Definitely.
You're gonna fight tooth and nail
Definitely.
to be the present parent that you need to be.
Definitely. I mean, it gets a little dicey. That would be a whole nother show. It gets a little dicey because there are people that are irrational.
And not, I wouldn't say the perfect
But-
world, in an ideal world.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
If things are in a place where it's not super toxic, right?
Definitely.
Because as you know, affairs of the heart, like, things get crazy.
Definitely.
So if things are not too toxic, then yeah, you should be able to put your best foot forward, put your kid first, and then two people should come together to be able to raise that child together. Yeah.
Definitely.
It's like a business essentially.
But I do think, you know, just to broaden that, I do think that when people look at guilt as a whole, when people look at the way they make moves, and a lot of people say fear is the number one motivator, obviously, but guilt is close.
Yeah.
If not, if it didn't surpass it, because I have a child. Let's say you raise a child, and you're learning as you're raising that child. So you stay in that child's 18, you stay in that child's life through their trials and tribulations. The child is 20, you stay in that child's life through the trials and tribulations. The child is 23, and they're still just doing a lot of crazy things. And a lot of the guilt you feel is I raised this child. Like, I'm a part of the child's upbringing. But if you know, once you realize you did your best, when is it time to say you got to let your child live the life that they live?
Oh my God, that is such a good example. Actually.
Which would be
yes.
the guilt a lot of people carry because this is a part of me. This is something I raised. This is the accountability. I said I was going to be here. But your child is now an adult, moving as a single unit, losing their values as they lost the value of the fact that when they walk out the house, because like we tell everybody, we hold our children so dear, but when they become adults, when they walk out the house, the love needs to be reciprocated. So I walk out the house knowing that I'm your parent. You walk out the house knowing you're my child. That's what's supposed to be the agreement. Mm-hmm. You can't just walk out the house because you're my child and do whatever you want to destroy my house and think that it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
I can't walk out the house and do whatever I want, use drugs, do whatever I want, and come back and expect you to it's unconditional. At some point, we gotta put a value on it. You get what I'm saying? But that's where the guilt starts, because we're feeling, if we took the title out of it, that's not my child, or we took the title out of it, that's not my friend, or we took the title away, will we actually be in that situation with that person? We need to really take a step back and really evaluate it, because if guilt is the only reason you're staying, that's toxic from the jump. But if it's a value of yours, like there are people that I messed up this child's life, so I'm dedicated to making sure that I repair it, that's different. Because you understand, you're taking accountability, you understand that you did wrong. But when you've been supportive, you've been there, you've been going through this, you put everything out there, and you made sure your child had the best life possible, and they still spit in your face. That's when the guilt, sometimes you gotta say, I gotta let my child live.
Well, I think that that's a great example.
Definitely.
So thank you for that. But
Definitely.
like, this is my show. Thank you for joining me. But I would say that yes, you're right about that. But I think that misplaced guilt kind of creeps into that when a parent is not really honest about who they were as a parent.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that, there's a lot of parents that overcompensate because they're not really honest about the amount of hours they worked.
Definitely.
And how that affected their child.
Definitely.
Or the amount of people they had in and out of their child's lives, or whatever whatever instability was going on at the time that they were raising their child or children.
Definitely.
I think that that's where misplaced guilt kind of creeps in, because yes, we say all the time, like, we're raising our children to be adults, because you're an adult way longer than you are a child. That's number one.
Definitely.
And part two, like, we're giving them the tools so that they can navigate through life in general.
Definitely.
And I am confident enough.
At some point, even make the decision if they don't want to hang with they don't want to be around their parents. That's the decision they would have to make.
Well, I just came to that conclusion recently, but I'm just
But we're raising them to be adults.
Yeah, we are raising them to be adults.
We decide to be friends, but they didn't decide to be our friends.
Yeah, that comes with the territory.
So they're going to have their friends and possibly check in here and there, but we're raising them to be adults to make those decisions.
But you have to believe, and you have to believe that you are, if your objective is to make sure that your child has all the tools that they need to be great adults.
Definitely.
Like, the word escaped me, but to be stand-up adults, then that's something that you go hard at. You know what I mean? And so I know that I fall short at times, right?
Well,
and
we all, I mean.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I fall short at times, right? So, but I do believe that 95% of the time, and I'm giving her enough, or I'm giving her the tools to navigate through life.
Definitely.
So if she did become that crackhead, or she became the hoe, or she became the whatever, I do know that 95% of the time I gave her all that she needed to make
all the tools
to make informed decisions. So
definitely.
there's going to be that small guilt, and we do get caught up in the feeling, which is why we are 5%. So big on not allowing our feelings to take over and to dictate how we react to certain things, because they waver, right? So there's going to be the 2 seconds of time when you're feeling guilty or shameful, because that's what comes with it, right? Like, you're embarrassed that you raised this child that is not a stand-up citizen.
Which is another emotion or another state of being you shouldn't base your relationships on.
Yeah.
So that's what it's saying in a nutshell. Like, I use the child example.
But I think it was a really good example.
Yeah, I use the child example because that's what hits home for most people.
Well, for me, I'm
because,
like, preach.
Yeah, that's what hits home for most people. But I'm just saying, let's say a white woman is choosing not to date me just because I'm black.
That's okay.
That should be her choice. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. But if she's not dating me because she thinks poorly of black people.
Yeah,
that's where the difference would be. But if she'd rather date somebody that's preference. You know what I'm saying? Which we're going to have a show about preference versus prejudice, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, that's what we need to talk about. Like, when are people able to make choices that aren't necessarily judging? Because it is a judgment. Like, you're picking a friend because you're judging the 20 other people that can't be your friend. That person's your friend because you judged the 20 other people and you decided on that person. So it is a judgment. So we have to weigh that, and we got to stop being scared of these words that we just use independent of a sentence, or we use independent of a paragraph. You see, like we talk about, everybody does that with the Bible.
Yeah.
They'll point out homosexuality, but then they don't talk about how you can't go down on somebody, or you can't have sex with anal. Like, there's a lot of things in that paragraph that a lot of people choose not to read.
Yeah.
They just deal with that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So like when they just, oh, you're judgmental. I'm like, and I look at them and like, so are you, because you just judged me, right? Like if you're smart enough and you're paying attention, people are always calling you all kinds of words. You don't listen, you know it all. They always putting these labels on you, and they're rightfully so for doing it. But whatever label you put on them to now get them to say that label back, you're not supposed to say that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So that's also with a guilt, and it's destroying our communication. If that woman don't want to date me just because I'm black, that's cool. You get what I'm saying? But I want to have a discussion. Why don't you want? Like, that should start dialogue. And that's all we're saying. She shouldn't be guilted into now dating me just because I'm a great guy and I'm black, and she should look past that. She shouldn't have to look past anything. You should get what you want. But you should be able to articulate why that's not the case. And that's what we're saying. I don't want to guilt her into staying. I want to just have an understanding, so when I move forward and tell the story, it ain't just because I'm black. It's because you'd rather be with a white guy. You had a preference. You know what I mean? So
Well, most of your decisions are based off of principle over emotion.
Definitely.
It's easier for you to make decisions that make sense and that you can actually adhere to. You know what I mean? That you can adhere to. Like, you can, it sticks a lot better. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Because like we always discuss too, like our feelings waver, and I may feel good today and like shit tomorrow, and I mean, which is the reality, but you know, like it's I may not feel the way I feel about something today the way I feel about it tomorrow, right?
Definitely.
But what's keeping me from still showing up every day
the principle
is the principle behind
the
it. And I think
contracts you sign up.
yeah, so I think that
And it's not guilt.
No.
And I think that can be misplaced as well.
Agreed,
right?
yeah.
It could be misinterpreted. Like, that's not guilt. So when your friend's like, well, I told my man I'm not gonna drink no more. Just like the scenario, I was talking to my friend the other day on the phone, and he was telling me how
you got friends.
I got some friends. You know what I mean? I was talking to him on the phone, and he was telling me how, just to piggyback off the drinking thing, he was telling me that he was talking to his like, they were sitting down having a discussion, and the guy's wife, one of his friends' wife, and him was sitting down having a discussion. And he was like, yo, if you truly want to be with this woman and she has trust issues, like, open up your phone. Like, what's the issue? Why are you not opening up your phone and like letting her just putting it on the table? I'm not telling you like she should go through it, but why are you still locking it? Why are you still causing these insecurities? Because they cheated in the past, you know, there were still things they agreed upon.
Okay.
They obviously it's a toxic relationship, but we're just saying they're together. Okay. So they actually decided this, and this is what they agreed upon, but he's reneging.
Oh, okay.
So the friend is like trying to help them forge their relationship and build it stronger. Well, my friend is trying to help them forge their relationship and build something stronger. So he's telling them that, and the dude cheated.
After that?
The dude cheated. She looked in his phone,
Wow.
he cheated, and then he got upset and hit her.
What?
I'm just saying, he hit her. And at the end of the day, now, you know, the emotions flared, the cops is called, X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? So, but now they reconcile, but as you know, the state takes over. So the cops still came.
Oh,
remember,
yeah,
she decided
you're right.
she didn't want to press charges or
Ever
not.
since OJ.
So now he calls, he texts my friend, or he calls my friend. He don't pick her. He in the shower, so he goes back. He picks and tries to call back. He doesn't call back. So now the wife calls my friend, and then they're talking on the phone, and he's like, "Yo, put your man on the phone. Like, I called him. He don't want to talk."
Oh, wow.
So now he's mad at him
Because he wasn't at his
because he had the discussion about the phone. He was there for the discussion, didn't say nothing. But now he's blaming him for all the things that transpired. There's no accountability. That's where the guilt comes in. As a man, you just don't talk to somebody else's wife about, that's where the guilt comes in, right? Yeah. So now he talked about the phone. The guy didn't stop him when it was all happening. He was like, yeah, he's agreeing. I see what you're saying, hitting him with all of that. But now all of this transpired because he actually stepped out. And it all became his fault.
So wait a minute. So the friend, the cheater, didn't tell his friend, which is your friend, that he was still cheating?
No.
Ugh.
But he got caught, so the wife called. So the thing is, he gets all the information from the wife anyway, because she calls him because he's obviously their mediator. Because we all have one, you know, we all have that person
That
we
voice
like,
of
yo,
reason,
let
yeah.
me, the voice of reason, let me call them up. And I believe that is to keep you from having a therapist. Like, you should have a friend that's the voice of reason.
Yeah.
That you can get on the horn and like really help you through your relationship. The relationship, as we say all the time, is not between just a man and a woman, it's between everybody they come with to support. So they needed to support, he was there to support them. But he blames the support. So now he feels like he's calling me up and he's like, yo, this is what I'm saying. And I'm like, why are you feeling guilty? So he's feeling guilty.
Your friend is feeling
He's not
guilty?
feeling guilty, but he you know, he's thinking about it. So like he's weighing
So
the
he's
emotions.
taking more responsibility than the guy that's actually been cheating.
This is what I'm
Crazy.
saying. So he's weighing the emotions. And that was just the example. I just wanted to give a story behind it instead of just giving the concept. Because, you know, the concept goes over people's heads sometimes. So I just wanted to make sure I gave them a story that they can actually identify with. How is this person that was,
The cheater.
no, not the cheater, the friend that talked about trying to help them with their relationship is now the problem?
Yeah.
And he asked 12, now he's at work, he asked 12 guys, told 12 guys the story, they all said he was the problem.
So why
Did you tell this person?
why is your friend still
Wife
friends with
not
him?
No, I mean, that's what the conflict is. He's getting ready to have a discussion with him, and then they're going to see where they go. But I'm just saying, this just happened. So they're going to see where it goes, but I'm just saying in a nutshell, that's the guilt we deal with. So now what's the next thing he's going to do? Stop supporting people. Like, it's going to be hard for him to, most of us, what do we do? Because I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to I'm just going to dead that person. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I think it's good to do. But at the same time, most people do what? They shut down. He's telling me, listen, I'm tired of getting in between these two things. And I'm like, but if they're your friends, it's nonstop. Like, though you feel tired, what I'm saying is nonstop as long as they're your friends.
Yeah.
I can't keep calling my friend and I'm like, this, you know what? I'm not dealing with your relationship no more.
You're right. So
And you're
what I'm
going
saying
through the
is
relationship and
he
you're
needs-
going through problems and you need support. And I just decided to tap out on that
He needs to
end of
make
your
a
life.
decision.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We're always forced to, right? But if his friend was accountable and wasn't trying to move him with guilt and just walked up to him like, listen, I'm sorry I put you in this position.
Yeah, of course.
Where I'm in between, where I put you in a place where you're in between me and my wife. Like, and I didn't stand up and I'm not a stand-up guy and I need to really work on that. And can you help support me? That would be a great friendship. Like, he can still
Or
actually
I don't
rock
want you to
with him.
support me.
Or, yeah, I don't
And,
need you to support me, and we make a decision.
Yeah.
But the point is, if he stands up, the friendship strengthens, even though he did what he did. So that's what
Yes.
people mean by, you know, people make mistakes, right? People do make mistakes, which is a choice, but people do in life, through experiences.
They fall short.
But if they come correct, how does that work? You build a brick, you build something strong, or you decide to part ways, but you have the discussion, right? But if you now just pass blame, you now just push things up and go into hiding, that's when the guilt sets in. You're trying to now throw what you got to throw out there, have the person thinking about it, feeling guilty, and just holding that while you go and do what you're going to do anyway.
Yeah, it's wrong.
So that's what like, there's just so many scenarios we can keep bringing up, but there's a lot of guilt being placed around when it comes to relationships and when it comes to personal relationships. And we saying we love these people,
Yeah.
but we don't believe they're around. We feel you got to guilt them into staying around versus showing up and being honorable and them staying around because we're great friends or we're great partners.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So it's a weird scenario on that.
Or we think that we can't be ourselves in order to keep somebody around. Or we're thinking about, death, so we keep other people around. Like, there's just all these different layers to it.
There's a lot of thinking, and like I
Yeah.
always say, I'm like a little kid. Like, everybody knows my mind is like a little kid. I'm very simple. I see things a lot simpler, and I relate with 2-year-olds because I'm like, just say it. Like, why are we? You know who I am, so I'm gonna say it to you, and we're gonna have conflict if we have to, or you're gonna agree, or I'm gonna say, okay, I was wrong. Those are the outcomes in my mind. Not we gonna stop being friends, not we can't get past this. Our friendship should be able to sustain anything. Our relationship should be able to sustain anything, but it should be able to sustain honesty.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
it can't sustain honesty, it's not a friendship. So I think 2-year-olds, like I always say, 2-year-olds are the true adults. They got a lot of impulses, obviously, but when it comes to what comes out their mouth, we always like, yo, chill, what are you doing?
Yeah, we
But
need to
they're the
foster
ones
that more,
they're
yeah.
the ones that actually, because that's what I'm saying, that's what we build their self-esteem.
Yeah.
We keep, don't say that, don't do this.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yo, that's what they
We make
thinking?
them self-conscious,
Yeah.
like, don't hurt this person's
And
feelings.
now
Be
we're
kind.
here. Now
Yeah.
we're here. So I always say, yo, if we have more truth tellers or more people that are honest with what they believe and aren't afraid of conflict, I'm not talking about honest and then walking out the room, because you know those people say what they want to say and then I don't got time for this and walk out. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about somebody that's gonna say it and willing to sit for 2 hours and engage.
Yes. And take everything that comes with being honest.
Definitely, that's
because
the
that's a
adults in the room.
responsibility in itself.
Definitely. So that's definitely the adults in the room. So, you know, when it comes to being the adults and when it comes to misplaced guilt, we need to forget the misplay, because obviously we deal with people being guilty on trial.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
there is guilt that we actually use, but misplaced guilt is when you throw it in the emotions to make people move the way you want them to move, which goes along the same line as emotional blackmail.
Or you're also taking responsibility for something that you have no control over.
Definitely. So, you know, we could wrap it up.
Yeah, we could, yeah. So
we had this discussion. We love talking about, you know, relationships, but my name's Aziz.
I'm Jerry.
And this is Accountable Love. Peace. That's your line.